Hey, all right, I'm already seeing some comments there. Thanks for being here. So I'm going to be doing this kind of weird because, yeah. So I couldn't do this on my computer. For some reason, my computer wouldn't allow me to live stream on YouTube. So I'm doing it through my phone, and then I'm going to be like over here looking at your comments and things like that, which I'm seeing here some. So, oh, you got tickets, but you couldn't get on? I'm sorry. It's still actually, they are actually still in the middle of a conversation there now. And again, uh, well, sorry for those who couldn't make it, but thank you for joining. So, did anybody watch Medicating Normal, or was anybody else involved in that and watch that? Because that's what I just got finished doing. So for those of you who don't know, you've got Angela Peacock was there, and Nicole Lamberson, and they both work with, WBAD and BIC and things like that. And they had interviewed Anna Lemke as part of that. And if you guys haven't seen my interview with Anna Lemke on my channel, she's a Stanford psychiatrist who works really hard, I think, to promote ethical psychiatry. Um, you know, which I think is a difficult thing to do as a psychiatrist. Kelly Brogan does the same. She's was also on there, and she's a psychiatrist who I've actually blogged for her site before about she had me write a blog about how to approach benzodiazepine withdrawal, and she does a great job too of really talking about how just psychiatric meds in general don't really do what people think they do. So that was good. They were all great interviews. Robert Whitaker was also there, and Robert Whitaker and I actually were both presenters at the International Benzodiazepine Symposium back in 2017. So it was really cool to get to meet him. Like, I was honestly like, I'm not the kind of person who gets like giddy about meeting famous people and stuff like that, but I don't know. It was Robert Whitaker had impacted my life so much, and it has, I think, impacted so many lives, that to be able to meet him there at that conference for me was just, I was a little giddy and starstruck. But he's a really cool guy. He's a really, I think, humble dude. He cares. He really does just care, and he just does everything he can to get this message out and to help people. So let's see if we've got, so we're going to be, what this is it's going to be a Q&A and a launch for Seeds of Hope. I've got a few little notes in here you can see of places where maybe we can do a reading. I've never done a book reading before. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but we're gonna go with this. And yeah, if you guys have any thoughts or questions, or if you had a chance to read the book, I know Gary Simone, don't know exactly how to pronounce that last name, but he got on. Hello from Switzerland. Hi. That's cool, Stephanie. Oh, I have a friend, Stephanie, but she's from Sweden. So across the pond, a little closer to you than here. You want to know what this helps us with. Are you talking about the book, or maybe you could be a little more specific with your question there? Yeah, Dr. Brogan is awesome, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about how some of the stuff that she puts out there has helped me as well. More recently, I've implemented some practices that have really, I feel, helped me to heal in a lot of ways since writing this book. And my publisher says, "Ooh, Australia, hi. Oklahoma, hi." But yeah, my publisher says, "Oh, you've got a second book in you," and I'm like, "You're crazy." Like, this was so hard writing this book. But she may be right. I'm learning a lot of things, and I feel a lot of it is stuff that can help people to continue to heal. I feel like Seeds of Hope is really the jumping off point of just the basics of like what it is to go through something that is just horrifying, and then begin to heal from that. Hi, Missouri. Thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. And And I believe, I'm just going to check here. I think this medicating normal thing is going to be going on for a while. And I know that people who were there were going to jump off and join us here a little later on. So, yeah, but that was a really good conversation there with Angela and Nicole, who are always just so knowledgeable and who really shed a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to spread this message. I think as we all do. But yeah, so just keep posting. If you've got any questions or anything, I'm happy to address those. But I'd be interested in knowing how many people here do happen to have a copy of the book on hand. And if you want to, you can kind of join with me as I do a reading. But so this is Seeds of Hope. Again, this really started back in 2017 when I went to the International Benzodiazepine Symposium. And the person who put that all together also had a publishing company, which is Moonglade Press. And that's who ended up publishing this. And the publisher approached me and she said, "You need to write a book." And I said, "You're crazy." Like, I'm still healing. I am not doing well. I have a son who is disabled and I'm homeschooling him. And it's just like, why would I write a book? But then the more I thought about it, the more I realized, you know what, I've worked so hard over the years to try and get this message out there. I actually co-founded the Benzodiazepine Information Coalition along with Janice and at the time Lori Campbell. And because there needed to be some validity out there and a voice out there saying that, you know, this is what's going on and this is what doctors need to do and know. But I realized that perhaps writing a book could reach people in a different way. Perhaps writing that could open up doors for me to in ways, and I don't know yet, we'll see, but could add some sort of, I guess, legitimacy to what I'm trying to do here in helping people. And hey, UK, thanks for joining us. So it really started back then. I kind of wrote out a rough draft and yeah, worked on it in between bad brain days and homeschooling. And it's a miracle this thing ever came to fruition, but it did. So you can get it right now on Amazon. If you don't have a copy of it, you can get it at barnesandnoble.com. There should be copies at least available locally at Barnes & Noble. I'm going to go probably take a selfie soon of me with my copy there from Barnes & Noble because I think that's so cool. But let's see. Oh, you got cut off cold turkey. Yeah. You know, and I understand the desire to make benzos illegal. Like, I get that. But I don't think that's, honestly, I don't think that's a realistic goal. And I think that, you know, benzos are used all the time. They're used in anesthesia when people go under. And not to say that can't be dangerous, because it absolutely can. My husband, I've noticed now that every time he's had several surgeries because he has car accidents and just injuries and things. And every time he goes under anesthesia, his recovery from that is, and I think particularly from the benzodiazepine, gets worse and worse. So I'm not saying it's like totally safe to use it for all these, you know, one-time kinds of things, but they are just kind of ubiquitous. They're used all the time for emergencies, from people having seizures. So I think our best option is to really do what we're trying to do through benzoreform.org, the Alliance for Benzodiazepine Best Practices, which is to educate doctors, change the FDA's recommending guidelines, and help them to understand that if they're going to use it, at least just use it very short term for like emergency type situations. And prescribing this for anxiety is insane. Like, the way the FDA justifies it is they say, well, doctors use it for anxiety, and anxiety is a long-term condition, therefore benzos are approved for long-term use. Like, it's this very circular kind of reasoning that makes no sense. So yeah, there are a lot of plans for at least getting the message out there, but I get that. I get that we just need to educate our doctors and help them to understand, like, look, it's not okay just to prescribe these all the time for anything. And that's kind of what I'm glad Medicating Normal is out now. That helps to spread the message too. And you're welcome, Bettina. Thank you too for joining and participating in this conversation. And I feel kind of weird having this conversation because it's like it's just me. I've been getting really used to Zoom meetings lately. I just did a Zoom conference where we were actually addressing race in where I live here in this state. And yeah, it wasn't just me talking. So you just found out about benzodiazepine withdrawal syndrome last year. Wow, 34 years. It pops up there and then it goes away, and then I gotta read it over here. But yay for you! Yay for you for tapering off. It's just gonna get better. Hi. Nairi, thanks for joining. I'm so happy to see you here. Nairi's my buddy, and she was one of the people that I actually mention in my book. Because she was sort of an angel for me during when I was going through acute, where I still hadn't really learned about how to appropriately withdraw, and I was still pregnant, and yeah, trying to figure, or was I still pregnant when, I don't remember if I was still pregnant then. Maybe that was after I miscarried, which I talked about all that. Love you too. So yeah, I'm not sure, Dotson, I'm not sure what your concern is, but I certainly have a lot of videos on my channel that you can go to that do address and help you with whatever you may need right now. I have an entire playlist on tapering. I have a survival guide on things to help you get through withdrawal, resources for friends and family. So please, if you need help right now with something specific, just go and start looking at all the videos on my channel. I'm sure there's something there that can help you. Hello, John. Thanks for joining. Oh, Lexapro. How are you doing on the Lexapro? Yeah, tinnitus or tinnitus is something I developed like day one, I think, probably of taking Ambien. I mean, yeah, it was kind of funny because I didn't even know that was a side effect. And my first time taking Ambien, I didn't have like severe withdrawal syndrome. So when I cold turkeyed off of it, I developed this tinnitus, and I thought it was like from my blow dryer being too loud or something. And that was years ago. That was like well over a decade ago. And it was only later that I realized, oh my gosh, that was a side effect of just taking Ambien for a period of time. It's not horrible, but I do still have it. Yeah, it does get better though. Is there a form of exercise that helps with anxiety? Yes. Yes. Can I tell you? Yes. And everybody's different. But for me, I mean, sometimes literally, if you're getting like this surge of adrenaline, because sometimes that's what's going on, right? You get this surge of adrenaline, and it's sometimes hard to tell what's that during withdrawal and what's just like every other symptom you're dealing with. But if you're feeling like it might be a little surge of adrenaline, literally just getting up and going for a walk or something can help. But what I have been doing lately is some Kundalini. And it's not even technically exercise, because Kundalini is yoga. And oh, thank you. And when I talk about yoga, I know a lot of people think of stretching and all this kind of stuff, and I've definitely done that. Yeah, I'll get to the diet question a little later. But what I'm finding to be most helpful for me, because I love exercise. I used to be a dancer. I used to be like a religious exerciser, and I still try, but it wears me out. I get fatigued very easily. So regular exercise for me is a little tricky, but yoga, Kundalini, I have found to be extremely helpful. And if you aren't familiar with that, there are a lot of studies on it. Kelly Brogan really promotes it. my son has developed OCD after he had a drug injury, and his was from an antibiotic. And I read the study that said that a year of Kundalini yoga helped reduce people's OCD symptoms by 70, 80%, something insane like that. And if you don't know, benzodiazepines actually aggravate or create OCD. Like, now that I understand OCD after my son going through his therapy and all that for it, I definitely had OCD brain. And I remember one time when we sort of first started doing therapy with my son, and one of the requirements through this program is that he has to do daily exercise. Well, he can't. He has this autoimmune disease. He's weak. He's not sleeping. He can barely eat. Like, he's not going to go exercise, right? So I said, okay, well, if you can't exercise, you're going to do this. You're going to at least do this. So, and he was like freaking out that day, having a really rough morning. Oh, I'm sick. Oh, I can't. We sit down. I make him do this Kundalini video for anxiety, which I'm going to share with you guys, by the way. I actually made my own, and I will be posting one soon. But we did this Kriya, and when we were finished, he just went, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. I'm feeling so good. And he just kept saying it, but he was so calm when he was saying it. He's like, I can't believe how good I feel. And he said it took his anxiety from like a 7 down to maybe like a 3 or 4. And that was huge. That was huge for him that morning. So he was a believer. I was a believer. I started doing it. It started helping with my sleep. And, I definitely have ups and downs with hormones and things that I eat and stuff. But I now every day I do about a half hour of this Kriya and something else called the Mortar March, which is from Dr. Sue Mortar. Again, I'll be sharing you and showing you guys what I do. So if you want to implement these practices, you can. And then I also will do 10 minutes of either just meditating or this other Kriya that's like a healing, singing kind of a thing. So these have helped me immensely, because I feel like sometimes we focus so much on the physical aspect of this that we forget that it's really all interconnected, the physical, the mental, the spiritual. And this helps me to heal, I think, in all 3 areas a lot. So yes, that's an exercise that helps. And yeah, you're welcome. And so I know that somebody had a question about diet earlier, and I'm just catching up to some of these other comments real fast. Oh, I'm so glad that the info has helped you. PA 16803. And I'm especially glad to hear that you're back to normal. That is amazing. That is fantastic. What is a Kriya? A Kriya means like an exercise. It's like a Kundalini set of things that you might do. So maybe you breathe this way and think these words or chant these words or things like that. And chamomile made her worse, and now it helps. I know, isn't that funny? That's the same with me too, and that's why I tell people just keep trying, because you never know as you heal what shifts in your body and what things you may be able to tolerate, because there were so many things I couldn't tolerate at first, and all the things that we think should help us, right? And that we actually end up having adverse reactions to. And then now I can tolerate them. But there's a lot of things still that I would say, even in some ways, I'm more sensitive to now. And I think maybe that's just because I'm better at listening to my body and it's more obvious. So if I eat something, or if I eat late at night now, I'm very careful to try to not eat after dinner now, because I notice that affects my sleep. Eating carbs and junk and processed foods, it will affect my sleep. And for me, sleep is it's the thing, because that's kind of why I got on these in the first place, because I was dealing with insomnia. So it's like the canary in the coal mine. It's like if my sleep gets off, I know, okay, what is it? What is it that affected that? What's going on here? Yeah, well, purifying, so Kriya is a purifying action exercise. It's just purifying, I guess, there's lots of different terminology around all these kinds of things. And yes, it can be, it's like, it's healing. It's sending signals to your body. right? And that's what I've realized, the more I look into this, that's what healing is, right? We take medications and they send a signal to our body to do something. And unfortunately, for many people, those signals go crazy, like with benzos. And when some people get off of benzodiazepines, there's signals that are going to their bodies that are saying, okay, proteins, you were this way for a while and dependent, now go this way, right? Start building proteins this way and go back to the way you were, and those people heal immediately. And then there are those of us who, for whatever reason, those signals, that RNA does not create the blueprint for normal metabolism and GABA uptake and regulation and all these things. And so there's a million and one different ways to send those signals to the cells in your body. It can be through herbs and supplements. It could be through doing a yoga meditation. It could be through, who knows, miraculous healings. But really, it all just kind of comes down to these signals to your body to start doing things the right way. So 20 years of benzodiazepines. Yep. And how are you doing now? Did I ever have sleep study done? No, I have not. You would think I would have, right? But I haven't. Although my doctor did initially. It's funny because my doctor, he was an osteopath. And when I originally went into him before I got on the Ambien and everything started, he did encourage me to do some sort of sleep therapy or something like that. But I didn't have like money for that at the time, or for like, and so I was like, well, let's just do the Ambien for now and just get me back on a sleep schedule. And big mistake on my part, right? Hello, Buffy. Hi. So Kundalini is a form of yoga, and a Kriya is like a set of exercises. But I like I said, I can post some links and stuff, and I'm going to be posting my own videos showing you what I do. So yeah, you can't take any meds or supplements right now, and I get that. And I'm not saying I'm not saying anybody should do this or do that by any means. We're all different, and I have friends who have never taken a single thing, and they do just fine. They end up healing, And thank you, Kathy. You're welcome. So you were thinking about coming off Klonopin because you have a loved one who is a sleep therapist. That's interesting. Or technologist. That's interesting. That's good. That's really good. I'm glad that you got that information. Thank you. And yeah, intermittent fasting and keto. Yes. Right. I was going to go back to that. You just jumped on, after watching Medicating. Is the Medicating Normal thing officially done now? It looks like it is. Okay. Thank you to those of you who are joining me from Medicating Normal. Welcome to my channel if you haven't been here before. And this is a live Q&A and also a reading from Seeds of Hope, my memoir, A Journey Through Medication and Madness Toward Meaning, which really, honestly, it's all there in the title. That's totally what it is. And it really is, I feel like, the jumping off point for healing from something so traumatic. And honestly, you guys, okay, the first two chapters of my book, before I even really get to the third chapter of the benzo really fourth chapter, those chapters are just a prelude to my medication story. And my first chapter would be an entire book by itself, right? Like there are people who write entire books about what I write about in my first chapter. My publisher wanted me to give her like 100-page book, that somebody could, and she ends up with one that's almost 200 pages. And she's lucky she got it in that. I mean, I could have written novels about the crap I've gone through in my life. But that's just the prelude, man, to the benzo journey. Gary, hi, you read the book and it's a must read. Thank you. Oh, Seroquel. Yeah, that's a beast. Congratulations on getting off, Ray. Good for you. Thank you for joining us. Oh, now I'm trying to get caught up on these. So I'm doing this in my phone because I couldn't do it through my computer for some reason. So I'm like talking to you guys here and then looking at some comments over here. They'll pop up here for a minute, but Yeah, there's no amount of writing, right? You could just fill volumes. Uh, 2 more meds to taper, and Xanax is one of them. Well, just make sure that Xanax has a super short half-life, right? So make sure that you are breaking up that dose enough so that you're not being killed by those interdose withdrawals every few hours throughout the day. It definitely can be done with Xanax, but I know someone, I mean, he had to dose 8 times a day in order to avoid interdose because the half-life was so short. Hi, Aya. Thanks for joining us, and Girl Waking Up. Oh, I'm so glad my videos helped you, Girl Waking Up. Did I experience agoraphobia? Yes. Oh my gosh, that was one of the first things I experienced when I went into acute was agoraphobia. But I didn't know it was agoraphobia because I'd never had agoraphobia. So I just thought I was just sick and that I didn't feel like being around people. I was kind of embarrassed about the way I looked or felt. And then I realized, oh no, this is agoraphobia. And so I would just force myself, kind of like what I was talking about with my son earlier with his OCD, kind of like exposure therapy. My husband would force me to get out at least once a week and take me out on a date, even though I felt awful. I mean, even though I could hardly get out of bed, we would go out on a date, and that kind of was my exposure therapy. Oh, Stephanie, looking forward to reading Seeds of Hope. Yay! I hope you already have your copy. And all those people who pre-ordered, I hope you all got your thank yous from me, since we couldn't do the whole signed copy thing. COVID, blah, blah, blah. Let me move down here a little bit. Constant frenzy, uncontrollable eating of carbs, like being remote controlled, ate paleo before withdrawal. Yeah, you know what? That was something I noticed more so with Cymbalta, although there are studies that show that benzodiazepines do directly impact insulin, for sure. But, oh my gosh, like I would get jittery, like I'd be shaking, and I realized it was the carbs when I went through my Cymbalta withdrawal. It was the craziest thing. And so I started basically like a low glycemic diet for that. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting. The keto and intermittent fasting. Yes, that helped me so much. There are so many things that helped me at different times, depending on what I could tolerate at the time. I would say a lot of us who don't feel like eating, that could be your body telling you something. It could be telling you kind of need a break and it needs a chance to heal. And converting over to a state of ketosis where your brain is independent on glucose for energy really stabilizes a lot of things. That's where my depersonalization and derealization finally cleared up, like kind of permanently. I mean, occasionally, if I overdo it on carbs and eat a bunch of junk one night, I will wake up with some of that. But for the most part, I thought that derealization, depersonalization would never go away. And keto did that for me. So that was massive. Yeah. And fasting. I still fast. I mean, I religiously fast because I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we fast once a month anyway. And that's kind of how I actually kind of fell into it, because I was too afraid to do it because I thought I was too weak and fragile. And then I did it one Sunday with my family because I thought, well, my kids we're not very good at this. And so I want to show my kids and be an example. And I did it. And I could not believe how good I felt that day fasting. Like about, 12, 15, 16 hours into fasting, all of a sudden I'm awake and alert. And my mind is clear. And I'm like, what is going on here? So that's when I started implementing the fasting. I still kind of intermittent fast. I don't eat after dinner. And then I don't eat until lunch the next day. And I do find it to be helpful, although I can't always do it. Sometimes I'm going on the roller coaster and I got to eat breakfast, or I had a bad night or whatever, but definitely helpful. Let's look at a few more of these. 16 months. You're coming back to life after 16 months. That's really awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And there are parts of you that will continue to come back to life that you didn't realize. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that part of me. Oh, and a year later, you're like, wow, I had forgotten that was me. Yay, So good for you. 1 year free of everything, including Risperdal and Klonopin. 20 years of meds. Wow. 70 plus meds. I think you get the award, Denise. That's incredible. And you're coming back to life. It's like a rebirth, isn't it? I was talking about that with someone. about how, like, you know, there's a lot of people who say, oh, do this and do that and da 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 da, and they're all really great ideas. But when you're in the thick of this injury, in the thick of, you're in hell, some things may help, and that's great. And again, keep trying, don't give up, right? You never know when something might work. But I told them it's like being on fire. So you're telling someone, hey, do exercise and do this meditation. And it's like, well, that's good, but I'm on fire. So, you know, um, and you know, sometimes you have to let that fire burn out. It's like a phoenix rising from the ashes. That fire has to burn completely, do its cleansing work, clean it out, clean out all the crap, and then the rebirth can happen. But fire's painful. Let's see. Oh, you're taking a pause after your geodone taper. Yeah, I would too. Your body hated keto. Oh yeah, sometimes you have difficulty digesting all of that. And again, you don't have to do keto. My doctor originally put me on a high protein diet. It was just a high protein diet. I was careful not to eat carbs. That spiked my blood sugar, but I definitely ate carbs. But he also put me on a gut reset diet. And I think that probably more than anything helped. And I need to get a copy of that and just share that with everybody because it was so helpful, because these drugs so drastically affect your gut biome. Your flora and fauna in your gut gets so screwy with this. And I know that's a huge part and one of the reasons why I know that's a huge part of the suffering that we go through is because when you take an antibiotic, when you're going through withdrawal, you want to die. I mean, you want to die anyway, but you add an antibiotic on top of that, and then you really want to die. Like, I would become so suicidal when I would have to take an antibiotic. So I know gut biome plays a huge part on this, and I know that's a huge part of the healing process. Your abdomen is swollen and all muscular. Yes, benzo belly. And that is why my doctor, when I was still doing really bad after my taper, and I went in and I found a functional medicine doctor, that is what initially helped me, he put me on this gut reset diet to help with that benzo belly. And I believe that really did. Yeah, I don't believe I really had benzo belly very much after that. Occasionally at times it would get kind of hard, but it improved, and I improved leaps and bounds at that time. And I've noticed as I've implemented different diets, different things, what usually causes a setback for me is when I eat foods that mess with my gut biome. So I do a keto diet, I'm doing great. And then I start eating like alternative sweeteners on my keto diet, or I start doing a lot of dairy, and then all of a sudden I have a big setback. And in hindsight now, I realize that was probably my gut biome that was the problem. So, yeah, misdiagnosis. That I was all misdiagnosis. That was my whole. I didn't even go in with a mental health diagnosis. I mean, I'm sure there was some anxiety because I was dealing with insomnia. And I go over that in my first couple chapters. Like, there was a lot going on in my life, but I was fine. It was just that I was in a hospital for weeks with my kids and not sleeping, but then all of a sudden that turned into anxiety and depression and major and postpartum and whatever. Yeah. Yeah, your hair changes, you lose hair and skin sores and all of that. It comes back. It does. I have gone through periods where I've lost my hair and then it'll grow back. And then for something else will shift and like all this hair will fall out again and then it'll grow back. Of course, now it's not growing back as well, but I would get boils all over my face. I still have scarring from a misdiagnosis where the doctor told me it was cystic acne and cut my face up. I mean, I looked like I was in a gang fight, yeah, but it does get better. And for me, with the skin, with boils in particular, there were certain things that I ended up figuring out triggered that. So spiking blood sugar, caffeine, chocolate, MSG, like anything that would create a chemical storm would cause those boils to erupt. So diet, again, is it is an important thing. Hi, Brenda. Well, good. I'm glad you were here to say hi. But I know you feel like you look like you're a million years old, but it does get better. Acidic body chemistry, yeah. The body chemistry is pH can be a big part of that. Bone broth, yeah. Bone broth can be helpful. My son is even too sensitive for that, to be honest, because of the histamine stuff. So I do collagen, and I've got my electrolytes, and I've got my licorice root tea, which is an adaptogen, which helps your body with stress. And I know there are a lot of people who take ashwagandha and things like that. Those are adaptogens that help your body deal with stress. Just a sec. One thing I have noticed in observing a lot of people is you get really dehydrated during this. And I wish my friend Sarah were here to comment on this, because she's the one who studies electricity in the body and knows this better than I do. But I know that your sodium ion channels are what get affected in these GABA receptors, right? So these receptors that are injured by these medications, well, it's a flow through these sodium ion channels. And things like magnesium, sodium, potassium, those things that are in an electrolyte mix, those affect how electricity basically is going through your body. So I try every day to drink a mixture of like 1/8 of a teaspoon of potassium, 1/8 of a teaspoon of sea salt, and then like maybe 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of magnesium citrate. I know there's some people out there who say they don't tolerate magnesium, and so that may be the case with you, or it may be that there's an imbalance because it's too much and you need to balance it out with other electrolytes. But definitely staying hydrated could just be one thing that could really help you to improve in a lot of ways. I know so many people who went into the ER and then they would hook them up to IVs and then they'd like start feeling better. And I'm sure it was just because they were dehydrated, which is so easy to do when you can't eat and drink or shower or take care of yourself. So, right? No blame. You're afraid to stop your antidepressant of 30 years. Yeah. And honestly, while that's so reasonable, because I mean, I would never force anybody to get off. It's a daunting thing to face. A lot of that's chemical. A lot of that fear is like the chemicals talking to you and telling you to be afraid. And as you heal, you realize that that's not me. That was the drug talking. So, and I don't know which that is for you, but I hope you get that figured out. And just so you guys know, I'm like doing this jaw thing. So I was also injured by fluoroquinolone antibiotics at the time, and they cause tissues to deteriorate and tendons to rupture and things like that. So I have like these weak tendons. And I was singing today, getting my voice ready to get on here, and it kind of knocked my jaw out. And so I'm like, yeah. Luckily, I have a dad who's a chiropractor, and he can often get me back into alignment. But my dad just had surgery, so I won't be bothering him for that right now. Able to confront pain, a common theme. Yes, I think that's that's how healing happens, is addressing the darkness. Actually, I just wrote an essay on that for the Mormon Women Project about, it's called Workways with the Wind and Waves. And while it's written definitely for an audience that is LDS or Mormon or whatever you want to call us, I think it's something that applies to everyone in every situation. So I encourage you guys to go to the Mormon Women Project. Check that out if you can. It's a great essay, if I do say so myself. But no, I say that because it was actually, it felt like it wrote itself, honestly. I didn't even spend more than an hour or two writing that. Yes, so Truth says, eat clean, reduce exercise, meditation, etc. And I think that goes to something that I've really been learning, which is there are patterns to healing. There's this really great documentary, actually, it's called Heal, Heal. Don't get it confused with like there's some movie called Heal. But check out this documentary called Heal. It's about miraculous healings. And there's a researcher who studies these, what she calls spontaneous healings or something. And she noticed a pattern for people who heal. And there's only 2 physical things that people did. And we're talking people with stage 4 cancer or whatever, right? And they're only given weeks to live. And one of those things is that they radically change their diets. And then they start on some sort of like supplement or herbal or whatever kind of a thing. Everything else, though, is not physical. It is all like social and emotional and spiritual stuff. It's having a strong reason for living. It's reconnecting to yourself spiritually. It's finding support in friends and family. It's finding meaning. You know, it's certain things. And maybe I can post that. I'll post that in a in a post later so you guys can see this pattern. But you have to focus on all three. You have to focus on the physical. Send this signals to your body that you're ready to heal, right? You have to focus on the mental. Oh man, I just finished doing this program with, it's called the Mind, Body, Spirit, Mind, Body, Spirit Trifecta. It's the Body Love program. It's at CandiceNoss.com. Go there. Candice is awesome. Because I was still having issues with just lots of things. But honestly, her program is geared towards weight loss. And while I had gained some weight, I had so much fear around food after going through this. Because, I mean, when you're that sick and you're standing in front of a fridge and you're like, what do I eat? What do I eat that isn't going to kill me or make this worse in some way? Or you're up at night and you can't sleep and you realize, oh, have I not eaten enough today? And you get up and eat. Anyway, I went through this Mind, Body, Spirit program with Candice, and she holds your hand through the whole thing, which is what I needed. I needed somebody to hold my hand. And I just realized just how important focusing on all three of those things are for healing. Anyway, I haven't done any readings from my book yet because I'm just addressing your guys' comments, so I hope that's okay. Let me know if you do actually want me to read from my book. Yeah, Benzobelli makes you look like you're pregnant. Uh-huh. If you're a dude, that's always awkward, isn't it? And yeah, histamine is always a huge part. Well, because these drugs act like antihistamines. I mean, when they break down, they kind of break down into antihistamines. So it's weird how they affect histamine. Oh my gosh, we have a special guest star here. Yes, he is. He's right here shaking his head no. It's my husband.
I'm too high.
It's my husband. This is Paul. And I keep meaning to do an interview with Paul because I think it's so important for people to hear like a loved one's perspective on things and understand that. And at the very beginning of my book, actually, let me actually read that to you. I'll read to you a little bit about Paul. So this is just the opening. These are the opening lines for my book. This is Lucy and this is Guapo. This is our bird Guapo. And this is Nathaniel.
Hi.
And of course, these guys were my reason, a strong reason for living that I talked about. So, chapter 1, connecting the dots. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Steve Jobs, August 25th, 2011. Little did I know how right Mr. Jobs was when he made that statement in 2011. I had no idea at the time that my decisions to take a series of medications prescribed to me by a trusted friend and family doctor would lead to me writing this book, co-found a nonprofit, and lecture to mental health professionals all over the world on a subject about which I knew very little in 2011. I didn't know 10 years earlier, in 2001, while I was preparing to graduate summa cum laude from Brigham Young University, that the young man who kept accidentally running into me on the way to and from campus would become not just the love of my life, but someone whom I would rely on for my very existence. A man who would prove to be the hero of my life story. A story I never intended to tell. You may start crying now.
Yeah, bro.
You can start crying. The tears may flow. But that is the first paragraph in my first chapter of my book.
Beautiful with a bird on her shoulder.
Yes, thank you, Lucy.
All right. See you guys.
Right, okay, bye.
Radagast.
Yes, I'm Radagast.
Okay.
Bye, sweetheart.
I know.
So Lucy's got her blue hair. She's officially a tween and she wanted blue hair. So every chapter in my book actually has a quote. And most of these are inspirational quotes that actually got me through some rough times. Some of them I wasn't able to include due to copyright issues. But just those alone, I hope you find helpful. Let me look at a few more comments here. Irritable bowel syndrome. Well, yeah, but irritable bowel syndrome, honestly, all these autoimmune things are reflections of the injury that happened to your body and the inflammation that's going on. Can I tell you about something else that has helped? Just my son in particular is a grounding or an earthing mat. Earthing mats basically get electrons in your body. That's all they do, just tons of electrons. My son he wasn't sleeping. We were doing everything. We've done everything. We have done so much. We have done everything possible. And I was just like, I just don't know what else to do. And again, my friend Sarah, who I mentioned before, who studies electricity in the body, she said, you need to look into this. So I got him an earthing mat. And it took a couple months. But all of a sudden, he started sleeping 7 hours a night. And then now, a few months later, all of a sudden, his pain went from a 7 every single day down to like a 4 and a 3. So there are lots of things that can help. That's just one of those. They are kind of expensive. They're over $100, but to me, that has been well worth the money. And my daughter started having sleeping issues too, so I got her an earthing mat as well. Legs weak and you can't control them properly. Yeah, that's because the signals are going skew-wonky all over the place. But it does get better. Do you experience weird rashes and acute withdrawal? Yes, all kinds of weird skin stuff. That's just it's just so normal, unfortunately, but it does go away. It does get better. Sometimes it would hurt, like it would just feel like fiery around here. And then that's when I would use like muscle cream or coconut oil and just slather it on like my scalp and my face to help with some of that, those sensations. But again, look at your diet and just see if there are certain things that might be triggering that, because oftentimes there are, and figuring out what works with your body can be helpful. I started occasionally I do coffee enemas here and there. If that's TMI for some people, sorry, but Kelly Brogan does recommend those. I think I was too sensitive for them before. But I noticed that when I start having skin issues popping up again, I will do a coffee enema. And that does seem to clear my liver out and help to clear out that histamine or whatever the heck is going on with my body and get me to, yeah. So that's something to look into either now or in the future, depending on what you can tolerate. Hello. Oh, she says, I hope everyone came from the screening to hear. Thank you. Hi, Angela. Yes, I've heard several people comment that they did come here. So, and thank you for joining. And Angela and Nicole, you guys did an amazing job, of course, as usual. Angela, her channel is called Healing from Benzos. So if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. And they both work with Benzodiazepine Information Coalition and WBAD and the Medicating Normal film, which we talked about a little earlier. So, yeah, a lot of people are bringing up the whole histamine thing. And there's a lot of research that you'd have to do into that to explain that, but it is definitely a big factor. Does the head pressure and jaw tension ever go away? Yes, but like I will still wake up. I will do this at night. And so I really need to get a mouth guard. And for me, a lot of that is actually related to something called the trigeminal nerve. So trigeminal neuralgia is technically what I have, and that will get inflamed, and then I will actually have severe pain. So that is when I started doing actually stem cell therapy, which is another thing that helped me, because the pain, it was getting progressively actually worse, because it would come and go before as part of everything else, but it's kind of hard to separate out from like all the other symptoms I had. But as I got better and better, and I realized that this pain was just there, and then it just, sometimes diet would help, or sometimes supplements would help, and then all of a sudden nothing was helping. Yeah, sometimes that trigeminal nerve area can get inflamed, and there are things, and then that might also then exacerbate and create, migraines and things like that. But there are a lot of things that help. Again, the meditation for me, like the Kundalini yoga and getting that oxygen going. For my son, for his pain, there's a hyperbaric oxygen chamber helps him at times. Or again, magnesium, if you feel like you might be able to tolerate that, sometimes that can help. But staying hydrated in general, again, is so important, because that can create a lot of that. So for you, oils and foods make your inflammation worse. Yeah, and I wonder if there are certain kinds that do and certain kinds that don't. Right, so the muscle atrophy and the weight gain, that happened for me too. And you know, again, the eating thing, maybe go to that CandiceNoss.com or somewhere where you can get some help with the problems with eating carbs, because these drugs so impact your insulin, and they're telling you to eat. I mean, when I was on Cymbalta and Ativan or lorazepam, I would eat like a dozen cookies every night. Every single night or every day I would bake a dozen sugar cookies and eat them by myself. I mean, to me, like, looking back, that is insane. But you crave these things. And part of that is your gut biome too, being all screwy and craving that sugar. But if you can wean yourself off of that, replace that with protein or fats or things like that, and help your body stabilize out, you should get to a point where you don't crave that as much anymore. And then you might find a lot of other things start to clear up. And then let's see. Yeah, the boils. Oh, I'm sorry, you've got those too. Severe muscle rigidity. So severe muscle rigidity can be from a lot of things. And I would say if you can get into a functional medicine doctor, you can look up FND, functional naturopathic doctor, or you can look up, sometimes they're called, well, not holistic, but what's the word I'm thinking of? Integrative. Sometimes they're not technically FNDs, but there are doctors who will then kind of switch over and specialize in integrative medicine. So maybe look up an integrative medical doctor where you are. A lot of times these things are nutritional, but as it's difficult to get nutrition when you're this sick, right? It's hard to know. And so they can do the blood work, and they can kind of help you figure out where to start on a diet or maybe a few supplements or things that might work for you. I was deficient in a lot of things. I was deficient in iron. Yes, I was deficient in vitamin D. I was deficient in omega-3 and hormones, right? Where he's like, you have like the DHEA of a dead woman. He goes like, here's a 90-year-old woman, and here's you. So yeah, hard for your body to function when you're that deficient. You're constantly thirsty. Yeah, that's pretty normal too. And Epsom salt baths are a good idea because then you don't have to ingest the magnesium. You're actually absorbing it through your skin. So truth, that's a good one. Oh, I've got like a lot of comments that I haven't seen here, so I'm going to kind of go through. Wow, okay, here we go. Oh, that's so good. Positive benzo withdrawal said, thank you. This and the medicating helped tremendously to normalize what I'm experiencing. And I get that. I know what that feels like. I remember when Holly Hardman came out to our house to film for the As Prescribed film, which isn't out yet, by the way, in case you were wondering. But I feel like it validated so much of what we were going through. It validated that this story was not only important, but that it was real. And that whatever doctors or pharmaceutical companies were saying, like, patient stories were true and mattered. And to my neighbors who saw, and friends and family who saw, wow, there's like this documentary going on about this. Like, it's that big of a thing. Yes, it is that big of a thing. This is what I've been trying to say for years. So yeah, I get that. Can you speak about the Bodhi dizzy movement sensations? Yeah, so are you asking me? Because I don't still experience that anymore, and thank goodness. But I do talk about that in my book, how like I would walk kind of like a sailor on a boat. Like I would kind of walk like this drunken sailor trying to maintain my balance, because all of that just is so off. But again, that's just one of those millions of symptoms. Like that girl said in Medicating Normal, I had a million symptoms, and the lawyer's like, wow, million's a lot. It's like, no, there's about a million. But that's about one of those millions of symptoms that really does get better for miraculously somehow, in spite of medications. And that's, I think, what's important for people to understand. You don't heal because of doctors, and you're not healing because of, you're healing because your body is doing miraculous things. Every person who heals off these drugs is a miracle. So Amanda's 95% healed, but it's still frustrating, right? It is still frustrating because you're like, oh, I'm so close to being normal, or I'm so close to being able to like do this or do that. I mean, for me, even just doing this today, I was reticent because, oh, what if I don't get a good night's sleep? Or what if I'm having a bad brain day? And you never know. And it's so hard to plan ahead of time. But yeah, I get it. So used to be a very social dreamer, but now when you're around people, you get dizzy, agitated. Yeah. And a lot of that is the agoraphobia, is the anxiety. If you're still in withdrawal, sometimes that's hard to manage. But I found that once I was off of meds, I could implement a lot of the skills from cognitive behavioral therapy or other things when I was in those situations to help myself get past that. But again, a lot of that for me was exposures. It was just getting out there and doing it and retraining your body to be calm in those situations. And there's so many thoughts that it's like these drugs rewire. I know they rewire your brain. They do rewire your brain, because even just getting off the Cymbalta initially, when I did cognitive behavioral therapy after that, and I was doing it on my own at home, like with this little thing, I could feel my brain rewiring. And all these thoughts that would go in one direction, I was retraining them to go in another direction. And then this mind, body, spirit thing that I just did, the Body Love program, again, I was addressing the same thing, because you don't realize how many thoughts that are just these drugs create that are telling you crap, and that then make you feel nervous when you're around people. And you really do have to go back and address, okay, where is that coming from? What is the thought that originated with that? And maybe you can't 100% control what your body's doing, but you can begin to control those thoughts. It's the same as those thoughts that come in that tell you to take your own life. They're not coming from you. I can tell you that. They're not. Okay? If you love yourself, if you care about yourself, you start battling those thoughts with the true thoughts, the real thoughts, and that will get better. Yeah, loss of normal sensation through whole body. Feel like you're made of rubber. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy how these drugs can just make you feel so weird throughout every cell and neuron in your body? Do we ever go back to completely normal? It seems impossible. I know you think, how could you possibly recover from being this bad, this injured? But it does happen. I've seen people who've been on these for decades and decades, who are older, who, whatever, and you really do heal. And yeah, am I still dealing with stuff? Yes. Yeah. There are still some things, but I'm also 42, as opposed to being, 32 when all this started. But you do heal, and you are able to live a good life. And maybe that life isn't going to be exactly how you had originally planned it, because life happens, things change, and you have to be willing to accept where you're at now, so that you can accept where you might be 5 years from now when you're a lot better. But you do get better. You do. Neuroplasticity. You learn neuroplasticity. Yes, that is what it is called. Thank you. And that the reasons that you went on benzos will return. Yeah, and they may or may not. I mean, are those reasons still there? Do they still need to be addressed in some ways? That depends on how much work you've done in the meantime on that, or what has changed in your situation in life, Yeah, that may get better. You were told to taper with diazepam, but the diazepam feels like it's burning your liver. The diazepam does course through your liver a lot more than something shorter acting like Xanax does. And if you feel like you did better on the Xanax, it is certainly possible to taper using Xanax. I have a video on liquid titration, water titration. I just put up a video on how to cut your pills. But you just have to be aware that you may just have to dose more frequently, like 6 to 8 times a day, because of the short half-life of Xanax. Honestly, if I had known how to do that, I don't think I would have switched to the Valium. I think it did really do a number on my liver. And I felt much better on the Ativan. But I didn't know how to avoid those interdose withdrawals, and they were killing me at the time. They were just absolutely killing me. All right. So we are getting on to an hour here. So I'll just go through, I think, a few more of these and then probably join my family at a car show that's going on. You missed medicating normal? I'm sorry. Yeah, some people don't metabolize Valium well. That's right. Just some people don't do well with certain meds. And Klonopin made things worse for Dreamer. And you weren't having issues on Xanax. Yeah, and see, that's the problem. It's like we're our own guinea pigs. We're told this may help, or try this, and until we try it, we just don't know. And so there are no guarantees. And I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I wish I could get on and make a video and say, this is exactly what you should do. Do this, and you're going to be just fine. But that's not the case. But that's also, I think, part of the learning that takes place with this experience. You know, the reason why we are in this mess is because we were following somebody else's prescription for us. We were doing what somebody else told us was best for us. And if you take anything with you from this experience, I hope it is that it is to learn to trust yourself more. I had lots of times over the years with these experiences where something in my mind was telling me, no, don't do that. That's probably not a good idea. But I listened to other people because I thought they knew better. And I'm telling you, your body is telling you exactly what to do right now. Your body is saying, don't eat this, do this, lay down, take a rest, fast, whatever. Your body's telling you what it needs. It's just we haven't trained ourselves to listen. And the more I heal and the more that I do these things that I talked about, which I will be making videos about in the future that will hopefully help you, the more I'm able to pinpoint those things, what my body's trying to tell me. And the better I try to be at listening to what it's telling me to do. Australia, how do you get access to my book? Okay, so here is barnesandnoble.com, or and I don't know what their shipping is like. I don't know how Amazon, but you can do it on Amazon.com. You can directly go to moongladepress.com and see if they will ship just directly from the publisher. If these other companies don't have something there that are in place that they can ship it to you. I hope that helps. Let me know. Cytochrome P450 mutations complicate everything. Yes, don't they? Because all these drugs kind of go through that enzyme that affects CYP450. But again, that is just a signal to your body. That is a polymorphism saying, do this, don't do that. And those things can change. Polymorphisms are just an expression of your genetics. And those expressions can be turned off and on, depending on what signals you're giving to your body. Thank you for all you do for the benzo community. Oh, thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that. I would love to keep going on. I don't know. We still have 71 people. Some people have left, but I certainly don't want to just cut you guys off because I love talking to you, and we don't usually get to do this. It's usually just me talking to the camera and you having to listen to whatever it is that I have to say. So if you have any other questions or if you want to keep going, let me know. Thank you for giving me hope and for realizing I'm not alone. You know, I'm just paying it forward. That is exactly what somebody did for me. I remember getting on and seeing Allie, who I also mentioned in my book. I think now her channel is called Benzo Land. And just seeing that face, just knowing that there was somebody real out there who was just like me, who was intelligent and well-spoken, and who I could connect to and who could explain it so much better than I could at the time, made such a difference. And it's like we're just, passing it on down from others like Geraldine Burns and Baylessa Frederick, who have done that for us, and Heather Ashton, right? My body needs a muscle relaxant, but now I can't take anything. Yeah. And hopefully that changes as you get better. But muscle relaxants, I would say any pharmaceuticals at this point, I don't respond well to. I mean, any, like I might, or even supplements a lot of times, I might be able to take one dose and be okay. And then I immediately build up some kind of tolerance or adverse reactions. So I would say maybe shift your mindset from I need an outside source to do this for me to guess what? that muscle relaxant is literally just something going into your body and sending it a signal to do this. And there are lots of things that can send those signals to your body. Your mind can send those signals to your body. So maybe, again, stop thinking, I need something else to come in and save me, because you don't, because it's just your body getting a signal, and it's your body saying, okay, I'm going to respond to that signal. So really, you're the one who heals. It's not the muscle relaxant that helps you. It's your body saying, oh, okay, it's telling me to do this, so I'm going to do that now. Thank you for your service supporting a friend through this hideous process. Oh, Liz, thank you for being a support for your friend. Like, thank you. On behalf of all of us, thank you so much for being that person. Ray says, your videos were the first I found when I knew nothing about benzos. You helped me so much. I'm so glad to hear that. Somebody posted something the other day, was like, if you could have any of these things, which would you have? And I didn't see the last one, but one of them was 1 million followers. And I thought, oh, I would want 1 million followers. Not because I make money off of this or because I want to be famous. Like, I don't want to be the famous benzo babe. But I would want that, because I want every single person out there to hear this message, as many as possible, because there are so many who like you, others who don't hear this message, like me, who didn't know until it was too late. And how fantastic would it be to have millions of followers so that this message is out there? And that's why I was so thrilled with the Jordan Peterson thing, that he and his daughter decided to use their platforms to talk about his benzo withdrawal. And I hope that they have something that's helpful. Somebody posted the other day that he was on gabapentin. That may or may not be true. So we'll see how he does, because that's another GABA agonist. But I hope that they continue to speak out, because the more people that can hear about this, and it doesn't have to be from me. It can be from Angela. It can be from whoever. As long as people hear this message, that's what's important. I hope this icky sense of depersonalization goes away. Effexor triggered it. Yeah, I was on Effexor too. And clonazepam. You came to double check your taper math. Oh, good for you. Oh, double check that taper math. Double check your instruments. I screwed up at one point during my taper because I was using a different jar. I had no idea the measurements were different. That was painful. So good for you for double checking. Yeah, so I would, yeah. Oh, you're off for 3 weeks, SW. Congratulations. That's huge. Can folks experience benzo withdrawal from occasional use? Yes. Yes, you can. I know I have one friend in particular. She would take it PRN, so just occasionally. And she developed tolerance and interdose withdrawal and all of that, especially if it's a longer acting one like Klonopin or Valium. My husband, I mentioned earlier, that every time he gets surgery, they give you midazolam, which is a benzodiazepine. Oh, no, they gave him Valium last time for whatever reason. They've given him Valium for certain procedures that he does for pain in his back. And so it's maybe once a year, and each time he gets that Valium, it gets worse and worse. Last time, I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this with you. Last time he took that Valium, he became suicidal. Just from that one dose. And I told him, honey, just hold on, please. Just hang in there. This drug is out of your system in about 4 days. Valium has a really long half-life. I promise this is going to get better. And sure enough, after 4 days, the suicidality went away. From one dose, once, maybe twice a year from surgical procedures. So yes, unfortunately, yes, that is a very big possibility. Yeah. And then, where are we? Did you have any problems with Cymbalta? Yes. That's why I got off it. I kept trying to get off the lorazepam first, but it was too hard to get off of. And the doctor kept telling me to wait to get off the Cymbalta till I got off the lorazepam. And I'm like, screw this. I can't get off the lorazepam. The Cymbalta ain't doing me any favors. Because I was putting on weight. So what happened initially is I got on progesterone, and I talk about all this in my book. It's all there, laid out for you. But I got on progesterone because I thought it'd be helpful, but not with withdrawals. I had no idea about that connection. So I started doing a very slow taper of Cymbalta. Was doing great, was losing weight, feeling better. Then all of a sudden, I stopped the progesterone, which again, I didn't know was related, and I got so bad. And so then I got back up on the Cymbalta, which was 60 milligrams. And oh man, everything just went, that's when everything went to pot. My blood pressure was skyrocketing. I was like third trimester pregnancy weight, which I had always been like super skinny my whole life, by the way. Like even the little bit of weight that initially I put on with Cymbalta put me probably like in a normal range with other people, like where I'm at now actually. But I put on so much weight and was so depressed and falling asleep in the middle of the day. And yes, and then when I got, and so then I just cold turkeyed it, and that was awful. I felt like I was insane. I was getting head zaps, which, you know, for those of you who don't know, it's like, it feels like all of a sudden you get like a seizure for like a millisecond. Your brain just kind of does this. But for me, again, blood sugar was a huge thing with the Cymbalta. So once I stabilized out my insulin with diet and then did some cognitive behavioral therapy to rewire what had happened to my brain, because I didn't have anxiety before that. So I didn't even know that was anxiety. So some of this stuff that I was dealing with until a friend pointed that out to me. And then I thought, oh my gosh, that's anxiety? This is insane. And so then I started to address that and it got a lot better. Have you heard any exciting news from Dr. Rafa? No, that was a busy dude. They're all busy doing their things, but it's a long process. I'm so glad that you guys responded so well to that video with Dr. Rafa, though, because I kind of almost had to like strong arm him into doing a video because I think he's kind of a private person. And I'm like, you have to share this information with people because they want to know this. They need to know this. So I'm really glad that he did that interview. But no, they're just plugging away at getting the research done, getting the FDA thing, you know, getting stuff going. And please, if you guys, if anybody can donate, if you want to donate today for World Benzodiazepine Awareness Day, also you can go to benzoreform.org and donate for the research and everything that they're trying to get done there, because it's money, and these guys, they know how to get research done. They know how to get funding. By all means, we're not totally dependent on donations, but every little bit definitely will help, because they do a lot of other things too. Yo, you get the zap, Spyro. Sorry. Yeah. What's my opinion on Jordan Peterson's path? The same opinion that I have on everybody else's path. Everybody's path looks different. Everybody has to make their mistakes or find their solutions, and we all go about that different ways, and there's no 100% right way to do that. I know what's worked for me. I know what generally works for people across the board, but Jordan Peterson's story was different. I mean, the dude it sounds like he definitely developed a paradoxical reaction from kindling, really, in a sense, because he went down, went off, and then went back on, and then went up. So then all of a sudden he has this paradoxical reaction where he can't take a benzodiazepine anymore because it's making, every time he takes it, it's making him worse and worse and worse. So he had to get off rapidly. And so, yeah, I'm just super happy that he's stable right now. And again, I just pray that continues, that whatever meds he's taking aren't going to like aggravate this later on. I wonder if during this whole thing he continued to take the antidepressants that he was on, because he did talk about having, before the whole benzo thing started, like right before, kind of what kicked that off, he mentioned was having this really adverse reaction to some food and having some sort of a major histamine reaction. So when I heard that, like this light went off, like ding, 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 ding. I'm like, dude, you're on meds that create those kinds of problems. So we'll see. I don't know. I withdrew from SSRIs and experienced the same nightmare. Yeah, and that's the thing. For some people, it's the benzo. For some people, it's the SSRIs. For some people, it's the fluoroquinolone antibiotic or the antipsychotic. I've noticed whatever drug people withdraw from first, the other drugs kind of tend to buffer that. And so it's the next drug or the next drug where it gets worse. Often. Not always, but often. I struggle with relationships. Spiros, have you seen my video on how to pretend to be human during benzo withdrawal? How to pretend to be human. I believe that's what it's called. Check that one out. I addressed that in there because, yeah, you can't force yourself to be something you're not, but it is helpful in order to get the support and help, you need to at least try to maintain relationships as best you can. And that's what that video talks about. What do you recommend for benzo-dependent person who has been floxed? Well, that was me. I was floxed right before I started my taper. Again, I think there's so many things. It's multifaceted. Mind, body, spirit. But getting into a functional medicine doctor for the physical aspect, I think, is important, or an integrative medicine doctor. There's some really good ones around here in Utah that I didn't even find out about until much later, but the one I went to is good, but they really do know how to help people in ways that regular doctors don't. Making that spiritual reconnection in whatever way you can, dealing with emotional, getting your support network in place, all of the above, diet change, and staying hydrated, just those basic things. And then again, for me, I think a lot of my problems were due to the fluoroquinolone as well. So for me, the stem cell therapy that I've been going down to Tijuana, Mexico for has been huge. That maybe if that's an option, maybe look into that. I have a friend who she did a form of, I'm not gonna be able to think about it now. I'll think about it in a minute. But it's like an amino acid therapy, and but she did it specifically through this one place that does it a little differently, and it really helped her heal from her drug injury, and it helps people go through the withdrawal process a little more smoothly, so that then they can focus on healing in other ways. You're welcome. All right, so blood pressure is a big factor. Yep, it sure is. And some people do find that blood pressure meds do help them sometimes during this. You're beautiful outside and what you're doing. Thank you. Both. Yes, I get it. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's fine with me. And yeah, future surgery. Well, and so here's the thing. So I have a neighbor who's an anesthesiologist, and you don't have to have that in the cocktail. They mostly put that the benzodiazepine in an anesthetic cocktail. Do you know why? For memory loss. Because benzodiazepines cause memory loss, which I know all too well because I still don't remember a lot of things. So you could actually ask them not to put that in. It's not really a necessary component. Yeah, bathroom all night long. Yep. Do you recommend AA meetings to deal with withdrawal? That's a tricky one because AA is an addiction focus thing, and if you're dealing with addiction, then I would say that could be a component that could be helpful. My mentor that I work with the Council for Sustainable Healing.org, and she's sort of, I would say, my spiritual whatever mentor. She's a psychologist, and her whole thing is the AA format. She does all these AA type meetings, and she doesn't just do them for addiction. She does them with people who hear voices, the Hearing Voices Network, or for for depression, for all these kinds of things, but she does it in that format. And I believe it's a very inspired format that can be very healing. But it just depends on if you're doing it from the perspective of I'm an addict and you're not an addict, that could be counterproductive. And so, sorry if I'm reading stuff because it's like some of you guys are talking to each other and not to me. And so if I'm reading it as though it's like directed toward me, sorry. But you took a small rescue dose 5 months out and you got worse after that. Yeah. Well, that's called kindling, right? You're saying, why am I still so bad so long out? Because every time you stop and start a benzodiazepine, you increase your sensitivity to the withdrawal syndrome, the adverse effects from that drug. That's why rescue dose is such a bad term. It's such a misleading term. They are not rescue doses. They are matches to reignite the fire, except every time the fire gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm sorry that happened to you. So please, no more rescue doses. All right. Could I have kindled myself by missing doses for a week and then going back to normal doses? Yes. Yeah. Basically, for me, even just with the Cymbalta, I went down. I didn't go all the way off. But I went down and then I went back up and boom, so much. That's when all of a sudden all these side effects started. I mean, I was already having some side effects, but like some major side effects started happening. Anytime you fluctuate, yes, I've seen that happen. Oh no, is everybody having technical issues, Gianna, because of Mercury retrograde? I had a doctor not refill my prescription when he knew, oh, you were going overseas. See, that's the kind of stuff where I would like to pass legislation so that doctors can't do crap like that to their patients. That's why I fully support like what Geraldine Burns is doing, what other people are trying to do. They originally, I mean, they're trying to pass informed consent laws, but originally they were trying to really pass laws to protect patients. And that's, I'm actually in contact with people here who are running for office and stuff. And I'm hoping that at some point in the future, at least in Utah, maybe we can pass something to protect patients, because it's really insane that doctors can do that to people. And you know, I hope I'm not triggering anybody with this, but like, as I see this whole Black Lives Matter thing going on, where they want oversight for police, right? And they're saying these police are just allowed to do stuff, and there's, you know, I'm like, you people have no idea. You have no idea. You think police are getting away with crap? You should see what doctors are getting away with. You think police have people's lives in their hands? Life and death decisions every day with these doctors, and they all it takes is them not refilling that prescription. It's a crime of omission, and they can ruin your life. It's insane. Oh, Laura said, thank you for the validation. I feel heard. Good. I'm so glad. All right. Well, we've been going for a while, and I just want to thank everyone for coming. Thank you for your input. I'm glad that you guys found this helpful, and maybe we can do this more from now on out. Again, if you've already got a copy of Seeds of Hope, and if you've read it at all, could I ask you for a favor? Could you please go onto Amazon and leave me a review, and or go onto Barnes and Noble and leave me a review, because the more people who get on there and leave a review for Seeds of Hope, A Journey Through Medication Madness Toward Meaning, the more people will see it, the more it will pop up. And again, and then that means that the more people who are going to hear this message and who are going to maybe get the help that they need. And so if you are like, what can I do to help other people? Go to Amazon and leave a review for Seeds of Hope, because then you will be helping to lead somebody else to this message. And of course, you know, lead them to my channel, share a video, do, you know, and that's part of the meaning, the healing that happens during this process, is finding meaning in ways of helping other people. I know that's part of what helped me to heal, and I know that can help y'all to heal. So, all right, we will talk to you guys later. I hope you have as good a World Benzodiazepine Awareness Day as possible. And I love you all. I wish you all the best. All right, so we're gonna get out of here if I can figure out how to get out of here. Bye.